You're listening to the Modern People Leader podcast, where we go behind the scenes with today's top HR leaders and work experts. We talk to them about how they've gotten to where they're at, what they do every day, and what they see coming next for the future of work. Hope you enjoy.
What's up, y'all? It's Friday.
What's up?
Happy Friday.
I see some smiles. That's a good thing. I've got a tie-dye shirt on, which just always, I always feel like empowered the days that I work. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to wear a tie-dye shirt.
Day.
Yeah. Oh my God. So
I actually have a Britney Spears shirt, which is like bleach tie-dyed. And whenever I wear that shirt,
I think you wore it on one of the pods.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. That's my version of this.
I love that's like the reverse tie-dye, like the bleach. I don't know what they call that, but it's such, I love those. Well, we have good news. We have like more great things to talk about. I hijacked the last MPL Build podcast. That was a ton of fun. But before we can get into the good, we need to talk about positive things happening in our lives, personal or work related. What good news do you have, Jesse, for us today?
I've got two things. Personally, my best friend is here, my childhood best friend. We've been friends for 23 years.
Oh my.
So it's always fun when he comes and hangs out. And also at work, we hit our 2025 revenue targets for the year this week, which is massive for us, really exciting. So now we're all like, okay, well, let's hit the stretch. Let's go for it. So we're really excited. Yeah, it's been a good week.
We don't talk about Talentful a lot on this show, but y'all are massive. And I feel like every time I see Chris's posts, it's just like, we've added more locations here. We've like 3x revenue there. It's just like one like positive like PR like statement after another. It sounds like y'all are crushing it.
Yeah, we've had a really great year. Business is good. Business is good. Our clients are happy. We keep bringing on more and more incredible clients we're partnering with. It's just so exciting. We've just signed a couple more this week, which we're really excited about, which is on the topic of this. A lot of really great AI clients, which is really fun. Yeah, it's been a really good year for us, which is nice.
Nice. Well, I'm going to take that because Daniel always like will hear good news and he'll go off track of what his good news was. And he's like, you inspired me, so I'm going to change my good news. But my good news, I'm not going to let him take mine because mine is is revenue related. And we have also, MPL has also, as of this week, hit our 2025 revenue goal. There's like the aspirational one, but like we hit the real one. And we're not too far off the aspirational one, which is kind of bonkers.
Congrats,
if we think
guys.
about it.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a huge sales week this week. And so kudos to Daniel and the team for making all that happen. My personal good news is I had my first How I Built It interview yesterday, and I'm waiting on getting a cease and desist from the podcast, How I Built This. But until then, I'm going to keep rocking with How I Built It because it is what it says. And it's literally interviews of HR leaders that have vibe coded their own internal HR products. And I can't steal the thunder from this episode, y'all, but like my mind is freaking blown. It was with Andrew Golden. He's the head of HR at Retail Next. And he basically partnered with his IT department. Like he went through the typical year-end vendor review, decided that he didn't want to pay $20K for the survey tool. I won't name the vendor they were using. So he just like got irritated with like the price increases after price increase and features that he didn't really need. And so that was his platform. And he was like, you know what? He runs IT also. So that it seems like that is an emerging trend. So he runs HR and IT. And he built an end-to-end engagement survey platform, y'all. He did like that included IO psychology research up front, all the functionality, all the visual. Like Daniel,
Did he do it himself, or did like the whole team? Did they like all? What's the word for it? Did they all surge on it at the same time?
No, he did it himself, and the cost. So this is what is mind blowing to me, and why I love that I'm doing these interviews. So he had a $20K quote for his incumbent vendor. He built it for $600. A full engagement survey tool with Daniel, all the stuff that took us years to build at Workify, like he did it in 2 weeks, $600 in his time,
Incredible.
which is insane. So anyhow, I definitely stole the
So
thunder,
exciting.
but hopefully I'll drop that newsletter next week. And yeah, it's super exciting just to hear what's going on out there.
Yeah, man, I think I'm going to do the thing that you just said that I do on Good News Stories, but I'm going to call back to our last MPL Build episode where Jesse, I'm really bad at remembering quotes, but it was something like lean into joy, like you shouldn't treat joy like crumbs. And I've really been thinking about that every single day. And I've been trying to bring that like mindset into recordings that we do, to the work that we're doing. I feel like I used to be a person that didn't take myself seriously at all. Like I was kind of just like go with the flow, could laugh at myself, was always trying to make other people laugh. And I feel like now I've over rotated and I've gotten a little bit too serious and like too regimented. And sometimes that can take the joy out of the things that you're doing. And so that's my good news. This week, the last 7 days since we spoke, it's been something that's like on my mind, and I'm making an effort to like, you know, take the full pie and not just some crumbs. Yeah.
I love it. Oh my goodness, this is gorgeous. You're the best, Daniel.
Well, you were the inspiration. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah. God, this
So
is
many
so
feels
sweet.
today.
I feel like we have to make Jessie feel uncomfortable every episode by complimenting her.
Oh, I love you guys. This is so great. Okay, that's enough sentimentality for one episode. Everyone out there's like, bleh. Let's go.
So let's talk about AI. I think Steven's good news story is that would have been the perfect segue into the topic. But it feels like we're in this Wild West moment, both like across every company when it comes to AI. But for this episode, we're going to talk more specifically about being in the Wild West of AI in HR. And so let's just start there. Why do you think we're in this Wild West moment? Like, what does that look like? How, what does it look like at one company who's on one end of the spectrum versus the other? And then what does like the messy middle look like?
I think it's such a unique new technology that's being kind of shared with the world, right? Yeah. Like this is like we're not talking about like, oh, it's it gives you access to other humans. It's like this gives you access to a thing that we don't like. It can tell you kind of everything. It can do stuff. It can do work on your behalf. It can give you it can analyze information. Like it's just like the use cases it helps you build tools, internal tools. Like the use cases for this technology is kind of wild. Like it's just like it's kind of unfathomable, right? So how do you give a tool like that to your team and then have them use it without some part of it feeling kind of forgotten or chaotic or not thought of? It's really hard. And I think it takes me back. I was at this event, to be fair, it was like maybe a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago. And this person there was saying she works at like a kind of an advertising agency type company. And she was asking how everyone else had got their teams to not use AI, to like block them from using it. And I was like, that's an interesting question, because everyone else is asking how are you getting a team to use it? And I was like, it's an interesting question. And she was like, yeah, we've made a rule that no one's allowed to use it on client briefs because, the clients are paying us for our ideas, not for ChatGPT's ideas. And I was like, that's interesting, because for me, it's all your other competitors are going to be using it. You're actually not paying your team to like sausage factory out their ideas. You're paying for them to use the context of the world to come up with ideas based on their own expertise and their skills and their talents that they've hopefully invested in. So like for me, it's almost kind of like weirdly equivalent, but maybe like slightly more hyperbolic version of like, yeah, we banned our team from reading books and listening to music because we don't want them to take ideas from other things. Like, is there a difference between that? I'm not sure. Your competitors are definitely going to be doing it. It's a different thing to say, like, we're banning our team from copying and pasting stuff from GPT and just sending it straight to clients. And I think that's kind of the one end of the spectrum where you've got some leaders who are just like, no, our plan is just to make sure it's like just pure abstinence. And then the other end, you've got like, we just let our team use whatever they want and we're going to just figure it out. And like, honestly, I think if you had to be like, Jess, you have to pick one end of that spectrum, I'd probably pick the second. I'd be like, just go for it. And that's why AI fair use policies, I think, is maybe the thing that, I don't know. What do you guys think?
The first time I went to HR Tech, I had no idea what I was doing. I had just come off of Transform earlier that year, and even that felt overwhelming. HR tech is a whole new level. So many vendors, so many sessions, so many happy hours to go to, and you can't do it all. If you try to, it'll burn you out really fast. Trust me, I've learned. I've learned the hard way. But over time, Steven and I have figured it out. We've learned how to make these huge HR events work for us. Now we want to pass that on, which is why we're introducing MPL Insider, our no fluff guide to conference season, starting with HR Tech 2025, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. You'll get things like our curated daily schedule, sessions we're actually excited about, vendors worth your time, the sniff test questions to ask every AI vendor, and, of course, the happy hours, side events, and meetups that matter. So think of it as your conference cheat sheet. We're still a few days away from having the full guide ready, but if you want it as soon as it's out, join the waitlist. You can find the link in the show notes. Also, just an FYI, we will be posted up at the Tilt and Chart Hop booths, so if you're around, please come say hi. Well, that's the first time I've heard AI abstinence. That made me chuckle in the background. Sorry, you were going to say something, Steven?
Yeah, I was just going to say my mind went somewhere totally different. I was the kind of student in college that was like, okay, I know I need to have above a 3.0 GPA. Like, what are the classes that are going to give me the best likelihood that I will achieve that? And that meant I took classes like the history of rock and roll. And one of the things I learned in the history of rock and roll, this is like, think about like 1997, Santana and Matchbox 20, you're having songs that are like hits. And I don't even know if y'all even know who these people are. And I'm at UT Austin, and the first thing that our professor tells us is there's no new ideas. Like, in the history of rock and roll, like, there's no new song, new genre, new, anything related to music that is actually truly a new idea. Everything has been borrowed, and like, they took us through examples of like Van Halen, the rock band. He was doing like Beethoven chords on the guitar. And so when I heard, the person saying like, hey, we're trying to block our people from using, these LLMs for client work, like, there are no new ideas. Like, all the ideas are recycled ideas. And, the edge, it's gotten harder and harder to have an edge. And so for me, if you think of like this tool that is using the largest kind of knowledge management system that's ever existed, i.e. the internet, that is literally the source of information that could go in ideation for our clients, for ourselves, for anyone. Like, that just sounds crazy to me. Now, legal will have their opinion, like, hey, we have a responsibility, there's ethical components here, there's privacy and protection of company assets. And so for me, I would go immediately the opposite way. I'm going your way, Jesse, but I more so just from like the democratization of the tech stack. So we're going to make immediate decisions on the tech stack. CTO, your job is to make sure that everything is safe. We're going to put some policies like, don't be dumb type policies in place. And, I'm going to talk to the security folks to see if there's any clever things that we can do there to like monitor or like do anything. They're probably going to say no, but like, don't be dumb. Like, cool, check. And we're going to roll this out, and we're going to get our people using it in a safe way. Because I honestly, just like AI abstinence, it's like, how did prohibition go for the US in the 20s? Like, usually those approaches don't work when there's something that is like so helpful and can generate so much value.
Yeah. And then, people are going to be cheating because they're still going to want to use these tools. Like, if you're working for an advertising agency and now you have access to all of the brightest minds that have ever worked in advertising, and you can reference their work and you can add on to that and like remix it with like your own lived experience, like you're going to create some really good work. And also you're going to create like 10 times the amount of output that you would just on your own. And so, yeah, I don't get that perspective. Where did she end up, like after you chatted with her?
She was pretty firm in her position that she didn't want the team using it. And to be honest, like I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's actually really funny. Like I think we talk about this, I think in the blog that I wrote, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but like, so two things. I'm obviously like, we've talked about this a bit of time. I'm writing my new book at the moment, and I use AI, of course. I use 3 different AI tools through the process for 3 different use cases. I use Asana with all my transcriptions for all the interviews I'm doing. I'm interviewing a bunch of people, and it's so great to be able to have like access to quotes and be like, can I pull stuff out about this topic? Or has anyone said anything on this? I'm pretty sure I remember this person saying something. What exactly did they say? Incredible. Like before I had to literally write everything out and remember where everything was and go through and search for keywords. It was crazy. So that's crazy. The other thing I do is I have built myself a little baby GPT that does all of my referencing for me in the right format. So I can just put references in that I've read or that I, want to have like a podcast or something, and I'll add it in. And I've made it so that what it also does is if within the blog or in the book or something else, the thing that I'm talking about references a blog, and then in that blog, it's actually referencing another piece of research. GPT will surface that other research and say, hey, this blog is talking about this topic, and this topic's actually based on this research by this other person. You may want to go investigate the primary source. So that's amazing. And then the third thing I've done is I put all of my content basically into Claude, so that if I have moments of writer's block where I'm like really struggling to formulate a paragraph, in the past what I have to do is like go away and have a chamomile tea and like get a break. And this time I can put the paragraph into Claude and be like, can you give me 4 different ways that I could start this paragraph that might be like a better structure? And then it kind of kickstarts me back into it. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I get what I want to say now. This is better. Or I'm like, this sucks. Here's a better way to do it. Like it helps kind of drop me out of it. So I've got these 3 tools that I use and I love them. And it's been so helpful for me and really like made me much quicker. But sometimes I have people ask questions like, man, it must be so weird to write a book these days with everyone using AI to write books. And I'm like, almost like a kind of condescending-y, judgy type, like, oh, if you do that, you're cheating. And I'm like, well, I still wrote 75,000 words of a thing that I spent a year and a half researching. Like, I don't know. It's something very funny about this idea that like if you're using tools, you're cheating. And I had an all team offsite last week or week before where we all did like a full day, just fully investigated into like how's everyone using AI. We had some really incredible use cases come out of it. And we also had an open session of like, what are your fears? Like, what are the things that you struggle with? And someone in my team said that she felt like she really struggles with feeling like she's cheating. And she's like, I really hate when people can tell that I potentially have used ChatGPT, but I know I have to disclose it. And it feels like I'm like cheating if I use it to like do my work. And she's like, I know that's not true and I need to get over it. But I do think there is this kind of like stigmatism still that exists, which I think is really funny. And even like academia is letting go of it now, being like, yeah, who cares? Use it, like go for it. So it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. And then because you feel like you're cheating, you're like, all right, how can I tweak the prompt to make it sound like I'm not cheating?
Yeah,
like
exactly. Now I'm really
system.
cheating.
That's how I used to be. And then I think Steven's kind of convinced me that in 3 months, everybody's going to be writing the same way in emails. Everybody's going to be writing the same way on LinkedIn. And so
I don't think so. I think people will still have a voice and like.
Well, like you still have a voice, but like little things like the M dash. Like
shout out M dash.
Yeah.
Justice
like
for M dash.
That was a huge tell that you're using ChatGPT, and it's like, okay, I have to take that out so people don't know that I'm cheating. But I think now people are okay. I think people are becoming more comfortable with these tools doing the hard work of like repackaging something in your own voice, even if there are like some signs that you used. GPT or Cloud.
M dash is actual punctuation. Like it actually exists, guys. Like this is the thing that I'm like.
And I mean, how many email or like, feedback on documents I generated did like a manager or a peer like, Steven, this is wrong. I had a manager who reviewed every single work product I did. She would print it off and she would do a legal review of the documents. This is, I'm guessing you know the employer that I'm talking about, Jesse. And she literally, an email, like, you should have had it semicolon here. It should have been a colon there. It should have, and so now that I am not naturally good at punctuation, and there are certain aspects of communication where I struggle. I've taken 3 maybe 4 communication courses over the course of my 25-year career that helped me get better. Was that cheating? Like, no, that was just like a tool that helped me get better. And now there's this like more scalable way that is literally like, this is my voice, this is GPT. And like everything that goes, that's coming out of my voice and going through the GPT layer is just, it's still my voice, but it's been altered to, I guess, address some of the deficiencies that I know I typically have in my communication. And I want to communicate great. And I don't think I should feel bad about that. And I don't think that is disingenuous of me to, I'm not like a fraud. Like, these are, to Jesse's point, I do think like these are your ideas. You went through a process. There's a lot of rigor in these processes. It's not easy to do this stuff really, really well. And so I don't think it's cheating. And in fact, I think we're just going through a generational change, or just like the way we work change. And I think it will become normalized, and there will people that will struggle with it. And I think it's going to be a very painful existence for the people that struggle or resist it, because the longer you wait, sooner or later you're going to have to cross this bridge.
And it's just fun. Yeah, it's just fun.
And like you think of how Steven built his website with Lovable. Like, is that cheating that he didn't hire an agency and spend $15,000 for them to work on it for like, I don't know, 30-40 hours to put together this really pretty website? Like, you got to that solution much quicker using these tools, but it's still you.
It's still me.
Yeah,
still me.
I agree.
And so I do, like, going back to the conversation you had, like, what is, if we were to just like, and we did this on our last podcast and I thought it was a really cool format, but okay, we've got Acme org, and we're the leadership team of Acme org. Like, what do we feel is the right policy for fair use? What sort of decisions what questions should we be asking ourselves as a leadership team? And what do we think? What does a policy begin to look like? Humor me and let's go through this thought exercise.
So the one that I wrote for our Substack is focused basically on HR team. And the reason I did that is because I actually do think that there's probably quite a lot of things that are pretty, like, I guess, like synonymous across the group, like approaches. But I do think HR has its own like approach. Legal probably has their own approach. If you're working in the creative team, it's probably a different set of rules because it's different work, right? So you're going to be using it for slightly different reasons. So that, to that point that I made at the beginning about the Wild West thing is like, this tool has like an insanely infinite amount of use cases. So I think it's helpful to like break it out into like the subsequent teams, have like a general company approach, and then break it out to subsequent teams and be like, okay, so this is how we use it in engineering. This is the specific tools we use. This is why we use these ones. And this is how to do it. Same in HR, same in legal, same in wherever, right? Now, for me, I think the kind of main things are, first of all, going through some kind of rigorous process with your security or legal team about which tool you want to use and which level of the tool. For those of you who don't know that are out there listening, very often teams will, if you want to get the cheapest version, people can get their individual accounts, but you're not going to have like a collective team overview. You're not going to be able to have like single sign-on and those kinds of things, which is helpful. You're not going to be able to connect it like securely to your own Google Drive, so people can be putting kind of random stuff in. And also there's like, some certain security protocols and things that the accounts go through if you buy the enterprise or team accounts as well. So all those things are really helpful. We went through the process of doing that and we assessed a bunch of different options. We assessed different tools for different things. Again, same as what I just mentioned. We have Sana we use for all of our interviews, all of our meetings. So Sana AI, it goes into every single one of our team meetings if people would like it. Everyone has a Sana AI agent.
And that's like a note taker on steroids, sounds like.
Yeah, I kind of describe it as like almost like a kind of a brain operating system.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if every single meeting you went to, every single doc you wrote, every single Notion page you wrote, you had like someone just there in the background remembering every single word of it, that you could just ask that person anything and it would bring all that context in for you together. And also it could go and do stuff for you. So you could say to that person like, hey, remember that meeting I had last week? Every time I have a meeting like that, can you make sure you send a summary out that says these things? So it's like agentic and also a knowledge base, which I think is really awesome. So we love that and we use it in our team. Now, the sales and revenue team use a different AI tool. They use Otter, and that's because Otter is specifically built with those kinds of functionalities in mind. It connects through to HubSpot in a specific way. It can give like insights into certain sales information. And then we have, for all of our interviews and recruiting, we use BrightHire. We love BrightHire. Our team is like actually obsessed with BrightHire. BrightHire comes in, transcribes our interviews and also highlights like key themes. It helps us make sure our feedback matches. It gives us red flags. So, this person's asking inappropriate questions and might need training, or this person didn't ask any questions about any of the criteria that you'd set. Like that's going to be a problem. That kind of stuff is really interesting. But also we use it because we do like kind of portfolio hiring, a lot of like evergreen roles. If someone interviews and then another manager might potentially be good for them, we don't have to rerun interviews, redo coffee chats, rebook stuff in. Managers can just kind of check those interviews out and make a call very easily. And then we use Sana L&D, which is incredible. It's like, again, one of my favorite tools I've ever used. It's so, so beautiful. And then we use ChatGPT. So we have ChatGPT in our team and we use that aggressively. We use it for a lot. We built a lot of custom GPTs in there. Yeah. And then of course, like every tool has AI now, but like HubSpot and Slack now has AI. It's just a lot.
And with ChatGPT, when you were looking at the different options, whether it was GPT or Claude or Gemini or I mean, I feel like there's a few others that people use. What did it come down to? Like what made y'all decide to go with GPT versus the other options? And why wasn't it more of like a team-based decision versus like an org-wide decision?
So with this one, so for us particularly, we have a lot of our team have the exact same title, right? Like 80% of our team are recruiters. So for us, we don't really have as acute of a problem of like, we've got an engineering team and a creative team. And blah, blah, blah. So that does help, right? Even without massive scale and continuation to grow, we're not going to be growing like new teams in a way that all of a sudden we start being like, oh, our tech stack needs to massively change. That said, we had a really big debate about this within the team because it was like, different people have different preferences and different reasons. Like a lot of people prefer the way that Claude produces natural language. They feel it's much more kind of human. A lot of people really prefer ChatGPT's kind of analytical capabilities. I personally love GPT's approach to things like Google Sheets and like helping build out formulas. I think it's really, 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 really good, really high quality. So anyway, we have different opinions. We want to talk about that. And then ultimately one of the things that came up, which I think is a really interesting point and the one that like really took us to a good place here is like pretty much, every AI implementation, whether you or not you want to admit this, is a human problem. Like, more than anything else, it's 70% team related and maybe 30% is like technical issues or not having the right stack or whatever. But really it's just like, are your team picking it up and using it in the best way? Do they understand how to use it? Do they have the right behaviors in place? And we knew that the one that people were most familiar with and probably had played around with the most was GPT. And it's the one that gets a lot of press and a lot of people still watch their product releases, whether or not they're like avid users. And I was like, we should really ride that momentum as best we can. If we know a lot of our team already have downloaded the app and probably use it, and we know a lot of our team are using it, like, to make recipes or do whatever they're doing on their weekends, then that's actually really useful for us. We don't have to teach them a whole new tool, which may cause more resistance. So that was a prevailing point.
So a few things that I'm hearing when looking at usage of these tools, policies, there are kind of two dimensions. There's like an org wide view, and some of the, for example, our policies will probably be org wide. But then there's, some decentralized or functional flexibility to have, there's like a functional layer or departmental layer where, we have org wide policies and we're going to make enterprise or org wide decisions on like core tooling like GPT. Everyone's going to use that. We're going to go enterprise. We're going to do that because it's secure, or we use Copilot because we already, everything's Microsoft, and that's just like the easiest thing for us to deploy. But yet, like note takers, for example, and I believe a note taker is like a core part. Like if you're not using a note taker, you are really missing the plot here. But note takers, could be departmental. That could be a departmental level
like
decision. Yeah, where HR is using one that's best fit for HR, sales, and because we're now talking about workflows and automation and maybe some agentic solution.
In our recent episode with Helen Russell, the Chief People Officer at HubSpot, she said something that really stuck with me. We're in this wild, wild west moment in HR tech. Teams are testing tools, experimenting with AI, and all of it's happening at lightning speed. But the real problem, most HR tools out there are clunky, outdated, and frustrating. They're stuck in 2019, and they just don't support HR's role as the driver of team performance and engagement. That's why I'm excited about Workleap. It's a simple, AI-powered talent management platform that keeps performance moving with one continuous rhythm of pull surveys, recognition, and performance reviews. No spreadsheet limbo, no year-end memory tests, just the right conversations happening at the right time. And it actually works with the stack that you already have. Slack, Teams, your HRIS, you get value from day one. If you want to see what modern HR tools can unlock for your team, just head to workleap.com and book a demo. And if you want to get 10% off, don't forget to select the Modern People Leader when they ask how you heard about them.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why we rolled it out the way we have. So yeah, I think the first decision is like your stack. I think also like there is a huge amount of tools out there in the market. It's my personal opinion. I just prefer things a little on the lean side. I'm really into tool elasticity, and I think a lot of these tools have a lot of capabilities that you can explore without adding more and more and more to the toolkit.
Yep.
So we were quite strict about like we need to have like one for the most important use cases, and then everything else like we need to teach our team how to have a bit more tool elasticity. Which is behavior. Again, everything's about behaviors, and actually the Encompass team are building out some really interesting stuff around AI behaviors and figuring out like what are the behaviors that are really necessary for AI adoption, and how do you like identify strengths and weaknesses within your team where they exist, which I think is really cool to like better enablement. But anyway, there's that. I think the next thing I would say is, and I focused on this in our policy that we wrote, guys, is understanding when to use it and when to not use it. And the first thing that I've put in there is like, you should never put any kind of personal, proprietary, private information in there, even if you have an enterprise level platform. We don't put in, we redact and anonymize all of our HR data, for example. And you don't need to like fully go crazy. Like we just like use a payroll ID instead of a name, right? So if something happens, but that feels really basic. We would never download a full salary spreadsheet and just email it to some random email. That's kind of how I've said to my team to think about it. Like, we know how to use a payroll ID. We can build it backwards from that. Like, just try to be on the safe side with that kind of stuff, because you never know what's going to happen, right? Just be careful. And that's not because I'm like skeptical about the security of these. I think it's just best practice. And if your team gets out of practice of doing those kinds of things, I think it can cause problems. And then the other thing is like, just being, clear to your team about when they should disclose that they'd used it in certain places. Like, you should never use AI to make a decision for you. I think there's like a really great analogy that so like full disclosure, I have no idea what this analogy actually means because I've never seen a single superhero movie, but like I get the idea of the analogy, but I'm just like, So what Dale says is like, it's not Ultron, which as I understand is like a AI monster. It's like an Iron Man suit. So you still need a man in a suit to make it work. It's not just like this omnipotent thing that makes decisions.
Yep.
Because that would be bad. So if you're finding yourself asking it to give you a decision, that is the wrong way to use it. If you're asking it to help you make a decision, so like, give me options, what's a different way to view this, then that's a great way to use it, because you are still the one that's using the context and your autonomy to do the work in a way that is ethically appropriate, I think.
And so I feel like we still have a lot of ground to cover, and so I'm going to keep us moving.
Yes.
I liked how you referenced the 4Bs framework in the article, and shout out to the people over at Zapier. I mean, they're great. I feel like
they are great.
Brandon and Wade are just like crushing it on LinkedIn. They're doing like webinars every week. I feel like they're really on the forefront of what being an AI first organization looks like and how to do it at your own organization. And so let's go through the 4Bs. So it's bot, build, borrow, and buy. Bot, we can kind of skim through, I think. I think most people understand bot. That's like using ChatGPT for everyday things like writing an email. We just talked about some of the things that you wouldn't want to use it for. Don't put your credit card information in there. Don't put health information. Don't put information about your employees. Like anything that's confidential, maybe don't put in there.
Or redact,
definitely,
pseudo
or redact it. Yeah, exactly. Build, I think this is where it gets really interesting. I guess first off, like, at what point do you think a people team is even ready to build? Because that feels a little bit more advanced. Like, not everybody is an Andrew Golden of the world that's ready to like build out their entire engagement
Freaking
survey
sick.
platform in
What
Lovable or whatever he used. When can you even think about building? Like, at what point do you think a team's ready for that?
Yeah. Wow. When are your team ready for that? I think like you should just have a go. Okay, let me. And I think, by the way, sometimes building doesn't mean you're building like your whole own tool. And let me give you an example of this that I think is really helpful. So Sana has this sick new feature called Studio Cards. Studio Cards, basically in Sana, what you can do is you can take like any PDF or any doc, like just some old school like kind of Web 2.0 training, and you upload it into their L&D platform, and it will transform it into a fully customized interactive learning experience. And it will include learning interactivity, like maybe a poll or a set of quiz questions or whatever, right? And there's also some really cool advanced stuff, like you can set up a scenario. So you can say like, okay, I'm going to be a hiring manager that's trying to fight you on a salary, and you have to like, negotiate with me. And also you build out little GPTs, so you can ask questions within there about anything in the training. Really cool stuff. This new feature they've built, you can literally describe basically anything, and it will try and make a like quiz / knowledge test / interactive element out of that. So you can upload. So the example that we did with my team, and this is an example of like build, right? If you've got an idea, and the example we did was like, I said, okay, team, here's a training, put it in. I want you to come up with a really interesting way to test the team's knowledge on this that isn't just a set of polls. And we ended up playing with something, and we came up with like, we said, okay, how crazy can we take this? How about you have a tree in the center of the screen, and on the tree there's a bunch of leaves, and the leaves have correct and incorrect answers. And as they fall off the tree, you have to click them if they're correct and ignore them if they're incorrect and let them land on the ground. And if they're correct and you get it, it explodes in glitter. And if you incorrectly get it, it makes the tree wilt, right? That's a crazy prompt, like super complex. We put all that in,
Great
and
visual,
Sana
by the way.
makes that. It's great. But Sana makes that for us. It makes this fun little interactive thing that the team can play with. Now, of course, we didn't end up using that in the actual trainings. What I was trying to teach my team is these tools can help you build things that you may not have imagined that you could have done by just learning about the features of them, right? So when I say, are you ready? You asked me if you're ready to build. I think the answer is like, yeah, your team is probably ready to do it now. Experiment and play with what these tools are capable of. Because sometimes the thing is like, oh, you can build a spreadsheet that, has inputs in it. Or sometimes it's like you can build a fully interactive game that's based on an idea that you have that's relevant to your employee value proposition and your branding. And like, imagine if you could build something that like lets you interact with the founder. You upload all of their Slack messages in there, and you can like ask them questions about the company's history. Like, if you can imagine it, you can probably build it, and like, let's also all figure out how you can kind of get together and make that happen.
Yeah, I think that build. I think that I wouldn't want to put a lot of constraints around building, because I think in order to get some of the answers that you were asking, Daniel, like, what is appropriate, like to even understand, like, what are we even ready? What is this organization capable of doing? We got to just build. To even understand that, we've got to know, okay, do we have competency to build a workflow? Like, I want to create this new zap. We're going through this at the MPL. We hired a new employee, Regina. She's been absolutely crushing it. She's never done any sort of kind of workflow automation. And it's like, all right, finance ops. We've been manually doing these things. Can we create zaps between, zaps between our internal systems and QuickBooks to like set up a new customer? And so I think that's one level of competency, is like workflow design and execution. And then there's like probably a few other buckets. And I think all the way, on the extreme end would be building a end-to-end application with, front end, back end, that's tapping into some of our enterprise systems. Like Andrew Golden, one of the things that he did for the survey tool is he wanted single sign-on. So he had to talk to the InfoSec guys to get the Google workspace.
This is so cool.
Like, guys, I can't wait to drop this newsletter. And so that is extreme. And I would not think that you would want just any of your team members doing that without some guidance. Andrew could do it because he is the head of people and he knows exactly what what the requirements are, what the leadership wanted differently in terms of like the types of questions to ask, in terms of what the end user experience is, in terms of what visualizations would ultimately need to go into the board decks that would go to the private equity firm. And so not everyone's going to have that knowledge. So to just have a junior team member start to work on that, I think would be maybe not the best use of time. But at the same time, I don't want to limit the junior HR person because they may see something and be like, you know what, this is not good. And here, look at this cool thing that I just built that will make this a lot better.
So what I'm hearing is there's different levels of building.
Yeah.
I guess when I initially saw build, I was thinking of like the full build out like Steven's describing, where you're building out a custom solution in Lovable or V0, or you're hiring some AI consultant to come in and build out like an end-to-end workflow or agentic workflows. But what I hear y'all saying is there's levels. There's like little things like being able to build these delightful learning experiences, or what did you say, Stephen?
Better
Just little things like
integrations.
just like connecting Zapier,
Well,
just like creating some like basic like workflows.
We just had the head of HR from Vercel on the pod, and one of the things that she mentioned was like, in your, for these like new school comp providers, I'm not going to name names. She did. We don't need to put anyone on blast here, but for the like best in class compensation SaaS tools, one of the things that they sell you, they're going to charge you $8 per employee per month, for all of these features, one of which is a cool portal for you to go see your total reward statement. It's interactive. You can model out your equity. And she's like, you know what? We don't need that from our comp provider. Like, I would rather house all of that information, our comp information, in-house, and we could just use VO to build a total rewards portal for our employees. Like, that to me would be somewhere in between workflows and like, a fully functioning, system that is tapping into a bunch of enterprise things. Because that's like contained within HR. We've got the equity data, we've got the comp data, we've got the employee data. Now we just need a front end.
Yeah. I don't know if you were going to say something, Jesse.
No.
Something else that I'm hearing from a lot of people that we have on the show is this emergence of this like new internal role of like an AI engineer. And the reason that I'm even bringing that up is because yesterday we had a podcast where we were talking about how B2B, or we'll just say HR tech, is cooked. That was what Stephen may or may not have said, that
I said
that a lot of these companies might not succeed in this new world that we're in. And I feel like a way to, and I think Kim, who we were talking to yesterday, was like, well, what happens when Andrew Golden leaves the company and he's built out like this end-to-end engagement survey platform? Like, what are you going to do? And I feel like one way of de-risking that is like, I feel like there's going to be new roles like AI engineers, whether like you have, and I think we've been talking about this for a while, Stephen. I think when ChatGPT first became a thing, it was like, oh, maybe you'll have like some sort of like generative AI HR person on the team that's building out these custom solutions. But I think that's going to be a thing to where,
I don't know. I feel like it's hand wringing. I feel like this is like, what happens when someone leaves that really knows how to use the AI, like the current workflows that exist within Bob? Like, do we like
figure it
need
out
to hire a Bob workflow creator person? Like, no, someone just hands it over, and the other person, like, that's the skills everyone needs now.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
I just feel like everyone needs these skills now, and like if you don't have them, that's a problem. We should train the team. I don't think we then say like, oh, we need to like, if Andrew leaves, then we could never possibly recover from that because he's the only person that could build something unlovable. Like, no, everyone should be able to do that now.
Like, just as a reminder, y'all, he spent $600 to do this of company money, and so like we'll spend another $600, and you know what? If it costs $1,000, we're still net saving $19K from an external vendor. So we'll figure it out. I think that is what is so mind
Yeah,
blowing.
it's like a champagne problem, I feel.
Yeah, that's
what happens if this is so successful that we like have to hire people to help us make it even, more better. It's like, well, okay.
Let's do it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good question, Daniel. Sorry. Steven and
No,
I are just
I think
AI right now.
we're all on the same page. Like that shouldn't be how we're looking at it.
No.
That we're going to build out these custom solutions, and then when that person leaves, they're going to leave with all of that knowledge, and everybody else in the team is screwed. I don't think.
Yeah.
And when I say SaaS is cooked, I truly mean it. But don't get that twisted. I'm not saying you should terminate all your SaaS contracts today and go build internal tools using vibe coding. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you look at the cost, just at the cost proposal alone, I think
legacy SaaS is cooked.
Legacy SaaS is absolutely cooked, and it's going to be so hard to transform. Like companies have already they're doing it, and I think some are doing it better than others. But more and more, it's just going to be harder and harder because the little bells and whistles, the lovable feature that you could add based on a great analysis of the user experience or the employee experience is going to get a lot harder now because as an HR, we've got that. Like SaaS provider, we don't need you to figure that out for us. We're going to go build all the lovable details and bells and whistles in-house. But we'll see. As far as the one that I have more questions around are the borrow and buy. Because I think that on borrow, it's how do we find time, these hidden AI features, it just feels like, we're at a place now where maybe 20% of our time can we spend investing in exploration and discovery and development using these AI tools. So it's hard to understand what all the low hanging fruit, is out there. And on the buy side, it's just super confusing. And I think you in the article provided some good guidance just around the buy, if you already have a great solution and there is this kind of adjacent AI functionality, you probably want to consider buying that. You especially if you don't have the internal, expertise or skills needed to do it on your own. But those are the two that I'm how do I, as an HR leader, work through these?
Okay, so the first thing is the way that I get my team to use these 4 steps is actually not just should I use AI for this and how? It's just any problem solving. How do I solve this problem? Do I first use a bot, something we already have? I just go to ChatGPT and put it in. Do I second build something that I can use AI to help me build and get that place myself? The third one is do I need to borrow skills from someone else or something else someone has built?
Yeah.
So that is a great example, I think, at the moment is Tom from Duro has built this really sick GPT around how to give and receive amazing feedback in their performance review process. Do I need to build it myself, or can I just actually message out to Tom and say, hey, can you help me? Can you help give me that tool? Or can we get someone from the engineering team to kind of help us build something if it's more complex than that? Or can we get a consultant in to come and give us advice about how to solve this problem? That is borrowing. You're borrowing someone else's solution in order to solve your problem. And then when you get to buy is we couldn't make a bot do it. We couldn't build something ourselves. We couldn't borrow any external skills or tools or consultants or other team members to get over this problem. So the last and final step is, do we have to hire someone else to have us do this? Do we have to buy a new tool to have us solve this problem? Do we have to invest basically long-term cash because we're not capable of solving this independently? And the reason I use this framework so aggressively with my team and really focus it in on AI is because I think that people's natural solution very often, and you already know I've got a big bugbear around solution before problem thinking. The frequency at which I hear we need to hire this person, we need to hire someone to do this, we need to hire blah, we need to buy this tool. And I think just going through these steps, actually, what really regularly happens is someone actually realizes very quickly that when they get to bot or build, they actually have solved the problem really independently. And that, for me, is really what I'm trying to avoid, is people just going straight to like, we need to hire somebody, because hiring is a slow solution. And very often it's actually like a negative. If you guys have met them, have you read the Miracle Man Month?
I think we had to read it, or we read like a summary for an episode that we did like 2 years ago. So I could use a refresher.
Okay, so the Mythical Man Month. It's a book by Fred Brooks, which is an observation when he was at IBM. And the observation was essentially his project he was working on. He was behind schedule on it. So he decided he was going to add more people to the project. And then those additions of new people, because they require like onboarding and management and all these, like they have problems, they have escalations. Basically, he figured out that no matter how many more people he added, it was always going to take this amount more months. Like it adds more time when you add more people. So it's kind of this idea of like, actually sometimes the best thing you can do is actually stop and assess the problem and figure out how can you break it down into composite solutions, fix those things in order, and actually deliberately elect to not hire more people deliberately. And it's actually something that happened to us a couple of months ago at Talentful. We were having this really big push on growth, and it was lots of hiring going on. And the way that we had structured our team was very much focused on like being partnered in a certain way with the business. And we were lagging behind. We kept missing. We missed a really big deadline on hiring, which was really tough. And the team was really upset. And like the team was getting frustrated that we're in the queue behind them because they knew this was going to drag their hiring out. And the kind of solutions we were being told again and again and again was hire people, hire people, hire people, hire people. And actually what we ended up doing, and AI did actually help us with this, is we put in a lot of the inputs and outputs. We said like, this is the reporting, this is the challenge, this is what we're seeing. This is like what we need to produce in the next couple of months. Like we need to build a capacity plan, blah, blah, blah. But also how should we structure the team based on how these workflows are coming in? And we just restructured the team entirely based on current needs and future problem, which is the thing we've talked about in our previous structures in one of our previous episodes. And that basically that team restructuring ended up like kind of completely reframing stuff up. We ended up hiring some people later on, but like the solution wasn't to hire people. It was actually to restructure the way the work was being done because the workflow was not appropriate. And some AI tools really helped us get there.
And so I know we're running out of time. It's amazing how quickly these go. When and how should HR teams or leadership teams be talking about this? So we're recording this episode on August 15th. And, you know, as I like my mind's eye has been observing this conversation. And one of the things is like, you know, okay, we're not having these conversations. Like my guess is a lot of companies aren't like having this conversation. So like, how can I influence change? And, you know, are you having a workshop? You know, I know that very soon we're going to begin planning for 2026. Budgeting season is quickly coming upon us. So like, you know, what advice can we give? Like, you know, maybe in this year's, you know, HR team planning sessions or offsites, this should be like spend a half day talking through these things, or a full day, or give an assignment in advance of your offsite.
Yeah.
And, you know, come to the table prepared to have this conversation. Like, what is that? What proactive advice can we give people?
Oh, good question. So I think there's definitely like a very like baseline thing here, which is like, if you're not currently already subscribed to a set of tools in a stack that solve your key problems in your team. So like, you know, interviewing, operational meetings, blah, blah, you should be already doing that now. Like right now, this second, go out and start assessing those tools and figuring out what's right for your team. The second thing, which I think is actually the fun answer, is so we have this stack, and the idea of tool elasticity is very important to us. Like, how do people figure out how to use the tool and the kind of span and like reach of the what you can do? So one option is you could just say to the team, like, go and read the documentation about the tool and use it every day. Doesn't really seem very fun. So what I said to my team is I want you to go and build something that gives people a reason to play with the tools. That's fun. And Shelby, my team, and shout out Shelby, she absolutely nailed it. Built this incredible little couple of hours exercise where it was basically like a treasure hunt through our AI tools. So we'd set up a fake interview. So people had a series of questions and stuff. They needed to go and find the interview and answer the questions and use the AI tool to do that. And then come back in, and that answer gave them the next step of the treasure hunt until they'd used all the tools for like some really interesting use cases that they may not have realized existed. She built that all by herself using, guess what? She like sat there with ChatGPT and like figured it out and then played with the tools and how to go herself. But I think if you could start figuring out ways to like make the experience of using these tools exploratory and playful, and then find a way to make your team share them. And I'll share one more really, really fun use case that I think is sick. So here's my AI like weakness. I love receiving voice notes, but I don't like sending voice notes. I always feel like I'm being inconvenient to people. And I live in New York, and I feel like people are listening in to me, and I don't really love that, especially if I'm wandering around. But I know it's super, super useful to be able to just like, do the little voice note to ChatGPT and it will respond back to you. So there's someone that I know that what they do is every day for an hour a day, they put a walk in their calendar, and they go out, they throughout the day, they give them like put agendas in their that hour long walk. And then they go out on their walk and they'll have their phone and they'll just be like, cool. So the first thing on my agenda that I need you to do is all the meetings I have next week. I put them into the chat. Can you please just go in and write out all the agenda points for them and then put them into the chat? Don't read them back out to me. I don't need you to read them back out. Just share them back to me, and then we'll move on to the next agenda point, which is going to be, what is that? And then it'll say like, your next agenda point is to write the job description. Oh yeah, so I did a briefing today. Here's the rough thing. Can you write the job description and then put it in the chat? Don't read it out. So basically what they do is they have this nice walk where they kind of get a bunch of work done without having to sit at their desk, which I think is genius. And I love that idea.
I think I get it. So explain to me how that works. It's connected to all of the other tools and it's going in and doing work for them, or it's just like...
No, it's just like in there. So what they'll do is they'll set up like a GPT in the morning, right? Uh-huh. So like you open a new chat in the morning. Okay. And then throughout the day, you'll say like, so I'm sure they have like some kind of template or something they put in, but they'd say like, so later on today, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to put in things that I want to talk about on the walk into this chat. So they'll type in like, write the job description for the pilot job that I'm hiring for.
Got it. Okay.
And then give me like, I've got a screenshot of all the meetings they have next week. Put it in, like, I'm going to ask you to help me out with agendas later on. So you can just keep this into your memory. Yeah. And then they go out on their walk. They say, can you read me through the things I put in the agenda for our chat today? Yeah. And then GPT will do the work, and they just talk. They just talk to GPT over the call.
I'm trying to think of how I can embed this into my daily practice. We do daily stand-ups, and everything's like listed out on our Slacks. And there's always that work that like you have to do, you don't want to do, it's going to take some thought development, and you just have to like sit there and like get the thoughts out. I feel like those are the things that I could take a walk on and just like feed it all into my bot and have it like get started without me.
Also, it's so nice to be able to go for a walk and just be like not having to sit at your computer like putting text in. I don't know. I think that there's like stuff like that. I think some people just don't think about those use cases because nothing has existed before where you could just go out for a walk, except maybe like an admin assistant or an EA, like another person. Yeah. Where you could just like shout a bunch of stuff into your phone and then get back to your desk and all the work is done and all you need to do is review it. That's great.
So what I'm hearing is like similar to building or just vibe coding or building with AI, like the planning, the use, like there are a lot of different ways that HR leaders can just get started and start to wrap their heads around, okay, how are we going to move forward on this thing called our company's AI strategy? That's kind of what I'm hearing from you, Jesse. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're over time. We're over time.
I know. Yeah,
I want to keep going, but we're at that point. One word close. I'm going to go. I'm ready. I'm going to go with tool elasticity.
I still have AI abstinence stuck in my head, so I'm going to
I'm going to say, I think I use the word play. I'm going to say the word play. I think that's like a really important thing to take away from this is this is honestly, like, I mean, Stephen, like we've had a lot of fun just even talking about what Andrew built. Like it's just fun. Like what a fun time we get to have. Like this is, even if you're using it for like no work stuff right now, you're just playing around with it. Like you're learning something and it's really fun. Like just have a good time.
Yeah, I love that. Just to add on, like I have been more engaged in my job. I feel like Daniel can answer that question. definitively. My wife has answered it. She's like, wow, like what's changed in like, is this the vibe coding stuff that you're like, cause you just feel different. And and I think it's cause I'm playing and I'm learning.
Yes.
So I love that. Well,
I was trying to think of some nickname for you, like Vibe Steven, or like, 'cause he used to be
With his tie-dye shirt, 100%.
Yeah, he used to be Stevie O. That's what I called him back in the day when he was CEO at Workify. So we need
Not
like some
that
new like
anymore,
vibe
yeah.
coding Steven name for you. I don't know.
Beautiful.
Feels like a good look.
We'll
see.
noodle on it for sure.
Yeah. All right, y'all. I don't know what
Thanks,
our next
team.
one is, but I can't wait for it.
When I'm back from Burning Man.
Oh, that's
Can we
right.
get
Have
a
fun.
Burning Man? Can we just talk about Burning Man? Jesse's
That'll
first.
be the
Burning
episode. Yeah.
I'm going to get back and completely change. But maybe I'll never come back. Maybe I'll just get back and I'm like, you know what? Actually, I'm just going to wear beads in the desert. That's going to be the life that I have after the 2nd of September. And if that's what happens, then I'm sorry, guys. It's for the best.
My wife Sarah's been, and she's like, "Oh my god, you would love it." But I do get triggered by sand and just dirt in general. So that part I would struggle with. But
I'd have asthma. Bad.
I think it's good. I mean, I've literally got my like pile of Burning Man related things next to me right now, and I've got like this like hilarious like in my desk with like this hilarious pile of like
oh my god,
sparkly clothes and like mesh things and like
what do the kids
fur.
call that? That's your Burning Man haul. Like you can take us through everything that you're taking to Burning Man. Another episode idea. Jeez.
Everything's just thrifted. It's a wild place. But anyway, okay, that's enough, guys. I've got work to do.
Go work. Go work.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Modern People Leader. We really, really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to us. And connect with us on LinkedIn. We want to know what you think about the show, and you can find links to both of our profiles in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and see you on the next episode.